Well, convicted Charleston church shooter Dylann Roof will soon learn his fate. Jury deliberations are getting underway in the sentencing phase of the trial. Roof faces the death penalty or life in prison without parole for killing 9 African-American parishioners in 2015.
The 22-year-old shooter represented himself throughout this sentencing phase and refused to express any remorse for his crimes. Mark Strassmann has been following this story, and he joins us from Charleston, South Carolina with the latest. Mark, Roof did not bring forward any witnesses, and he spoke on his own behalf during those closing arguments. What did he say?
It was an interesting morning, guys, for this reason. The closing arguments today from both sides. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jay Richardson spoke for 2 hours. Dylann Roof spoke for only 5 minutes. Richardson methodically laid out the case against Roof, why he deserves the death penalty. This was a premeditated act by what Richardson described as an unrepentant racist. This was a race-based massacre, to use his words again, and that the killer not only planned it, but he now continued to show no remorse. When Roof got up there, he spoke very softly but confidently. The first thing he said was, it's safe to say that no one in his right mind goes into a church to kill people. But then he added, and this was the chilling part, I felt like I had to do it, and I still feel like I had to do it. In other words, no remorse whatsoever. He made a half-hearted attempt towards the end of his 5-minute statement to ask the jury to spare his life, saying any one of you could vote your conscience and vote against the death penalty, but he never came out directly and said, please spare my life. So now this jury has begun, they're having lunch actually right now, and then right after lunch they're going to begin their deliberations whether to spare Dylann Roof's life or sentence him to death by lethal injection.
Mark, the prosecution took 2.5 hours to lay out their case. What did they say?
Essentially that he planned it and planned to do the maximum possible damage by what he did. That he targeted that church in particular for maximum effect, that the bullets that he carried were hollow point, knowing that he would cause greater damage, that the victims that he picked were the pillars of the church, the most innocent among them, and that despite all of that methodical planning, even when he had time to think about it, he was unrepentant about it. And I'll give you this, for instance. The prosecutor pointed out that Roof, when he walks into court during this trial, on occasion, he has worn sneakers that have racist symbols that he has drawn onto those sneakers. He has sat among the people whose lives, the relatives of the people whose lives that he took, and he still is wearing the racist symbols on his sneakers. Another sign, according to the government, that Roof unrepentantly has committed this act and deserves the death penalty.
I mean, listening to you and to what you just described for us, Mark, as we were watching an image of Dylann Roof walking into the church holding that gun in his hand, I got to ask, what do the families say to you? What do they feel like when they see this man, even as he sits there in court, sporting the things that you described?
Well, this trial, of course, has opened up a lot of raw wounds. The description of not only their loved ones, as the prosecutor has tried to give the jury a sense of who they were, in effect trying to bring the dead to life to show the impact of this massacre on these families. And then the families, in many instances, have also seen some very gruesome crime scene photos of the massacre in the fellowship hall, the basement of the Mother Emanuel Church. And then they've also have to just look at Roof, and Roof barely looks at the witnesses. He's constantly staring down at the desk in front of him. He seems to be disconnected from all of it. And when he goes up there and he finally has his chance to speak and he's completely unrepentant about it, it's bound to drive them crazy. They are a divided group, these relatives, families, about whether he deserves a death penalty. Some say yes, some say no. But I think everybody here understands that no matter what he gets, it's not going to bring these folks back. But many people have different conceptions at this point about what justice should be for Dylann Roof. And in the eyes of the government, justice is the death penalty, and that's what this jury now has to consider.
Mark, real quick, I got to ask you also, have Roof's family, are they in court there? Have you spoken to them or any of his friends? Is anybody there supporting him in that courtroom?
Haven't seen them and haven't seen them. Yeah, no, haven't seen them. It's a good question. Haven't seen them for a while, and that's got to be another side of just a certain amount of dysfunction all the way around. I mean, that is, here you have a 22-year-old arguing for his life, and there apparently is not a single family member in court there for him. So it's there are no winners in any of this, and Dylann Roof, clearly responsible for these killings. His life is now on the line too, as this jury, which has to unanimously agree that he deserves the death penalty, he could find out in fairly short order what his sentence is.
Mark Strassmann in Charleston, South Carolina. Mark, thanks for that court update.
You bet.